Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Stephanie Singer. I'd like to welcome you to the Nature Conservancy's monthly Lunch and Learn. We're really excited to have Matt Burkholder as our presenter today. Matt is a regenerative farmer in Ohio. He is also a farmer advocate for conservation. He was one of the first ones trained in Ohio, and he's also an employee of the Nature Conservancy. So we're really excited to have Matt talking today about how he uses modifications for no-till. So I will turn it over to Matt.
Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be here today. And like Stephanie said, I work for the Nature Conservancy as a part of the Farmer Advocate for Conservation program. And I also work in a part with the Farmers for Soil Health program, which is a cost sharing program for cover crops. And I farm in Allen County, Ohio. And today we are going to discuss no-till planting equipment modifications and learn how to adapt your planter for successful no-till. At different meetings that we have hosted or that I have visited, when talking to other farmers, I've realized that for the smaller farmers, sometimes there's some misconceptions. They often don't realize that there's just a few different changes or modifications that they can oftentimes do to the planter that they currently own, and they can successfully no-till and plant into cover crops. So we're going to discuss that today. But just a little background of where I started. I started farming with this tractor and this plow. I thought this plow improved water infiltration, and it does for the first few rainfall events. But then, unfortunately, the topsoil crusts over and there's ponding of water and reduced water infiltration again, because every time we do a tillage pass, it compacts the pore space. So the question is, why are no-till and cover crops important for soil health? Well, as you can see here in our hands, this is one of the peer group meetings that the farmer advocates hosted about 6 months ago. A group of us farmers were out digging in one of my fields, and my field is the one on the right there. And the soil on the left is a different farm that's right next door. And you can see there's quite a difference there between the two soils. What separates those two fields is just about a 10-foot grass lane and some majorly different management practices. So like we were saying, the tillage compacts the pore space. The soil on the left had a chisel plow pass and a light tillage pass in the fall, approximately 3 weeks before I took this picture. So we had our shovels out there. We dug up the soil on the left and we dug up the soil on the right, and that is what we found. The soil on the left had just had a tillage pass. The soil on the right at that time was about 8 years continuous no-till and cover crops. So, like we said, why are no-till and cover crops important? Well, when utilizing those practices, we will see, just like in our picture here, we will see improved soil structure. There is nice cover crop roots and a good aggregate stability in the soil. And we're also going to increase water infiltration. The soil on the right, the water infiltrate nicely into that soil. The soil on the left, when the raindrop hits that, it's probably going to just, hit the soil and run off to one side or the other. Another benefit is increased biological activity. We're going to have more earthworms and we're going to have more beneficial insects. When we dug these two soils up, the soil on the right had about 8 earthworms per shovelful. The soil on the left had 1 earthworm. Another advantage to utilizing these practices is increasing organic matter. The soil on the right, we are increasing organic matter by about 0.1% a year. I have a feeling this on the left is not increasing organic matter every year. I have a feeling it's losing organic matter every year. And another benefit is lower cost of operation. The soil on the right this spring, I am just going to pull in there and no-till corn into that field. Like I said, the soil on the left, that farmer had done 2 tillage passes and is going to have to do another tillage pass in the spring before that field will be ready to plant a crop. So many farmers will say, yeah, but if I implement these practices, the cover crops, they cost money. And I say, yes, but the expense of the cover crops are lower oftentimes than a 3 tillage pass system. Tillage does not improve soil health. Roots and mimicking nature improve soil health. And also another benefit is reduced soil erosion. With the root growth in the cover that is on the soil on the right, I don't think we're going to have much soil erosion. But the soil on the left, we're going to have some soil erosion there because it's just bare and that soil is going to blow or wash away with an extreme weather event. Speaking of soil erosion, I took this picture back in December of 2024. I saw this dust cloud off in the distance, and I pointed it out to my son, and we just started driving through the countryside to find which field this was, and we got this picture. And I actually rolled my window down to take this picture. And when I took the picture, I had sunglasses on, and I got the dust in my eyes when taking that picture. So this is pretty discouraging, but it can be changed. We can drastically reduce this with implementing these practices that I've discussed. Oftentimes a visual is good. The last I heard, soil erosion in Ohio is approximately 2.7 tons per acre every year. I'm willing to bet that there is more than 2.7 tons that was just dumped out of this truck onto the driveway here at this property. So that's a good visual, and that should be disturbing to all of us to think that this much soil is blowing away every year. Just a few years ago, based off of an independent study we did on our farm, our annual rate of soil erosion is 0.56 of a ton because of the conservation practices we utilize on our farm. Today, we are also going to discuss planter setup. We are going to discuss down pressure springs. We are going to discuss leading edge versus a true V double disc openers. We are going to discuss closing wheels and adjustments. We are going to discuss disc openers and adjustments. We are going to discuss no-till coulters, drag chains, and fertilizer placement. First, we are going to start off with keys for no-till with the older IH or the Case IH planters. For the IH or the Case IH planters, they have the leading edge double disc openers. As a result, very little down pressure spring modifications are needed. As you can see at number 1, that's the down pressure spring. When I bought this planter years ago, I bought it used from a farmer, and he was doing full tillage on his farm. And as you can see, I did not change the down pressure springs that were on it. I just used the down pressure springs he had, and I was able to successfully plant my corn crop into the cover crop that you see there. But one modification I did need to make, as you can see, is number 2, and that is the closing wheels. Those are serrated, the serrated disc. They don't have to be serrated, but the closing wheels have to be offset. When I bought that planter, it was old enough that those closing wheels were parallel. So I bought a different bracket, and then I just decided to put the serrated blades on. But I bought the different bracket, and so the wheels would be offset, and then I was able to successfully close the seed trench when no-tilling into either bare soil or either into cover crop soil too. But those were very important. As you can see here, this is from the operator's manual, the different adjustments you can do on those closing wheels. The covering discs are adjustable for varying soil conditions. To adjust the covering discs, move the link pin to one of the three positions as necessary. We have a Case IH soybean planter that we plant our soybeans with, and I have mine in the bottom hole, which is number 1. And then for the bracketry for the down pressure spring, I have it in number 2, which is the middle hole for moderate to normal soil. And that has worked for us. I have been able to no-till and plant into pretty much whatever cover crop I've wanted to. It's worked quite well. Another very important adjustment to make on your planter, especially when no-tilling, is setting the opening discs contact. As you can see here in the picture, it's a good idea to shim the double disc openers. So take a business card and slide it in between the discs until it catches. Slide another one in from the other way, and then just take a tape measure and measure the distance in between. As you can see here, for the 3mm blade thickness, you want between 2 and 2.5 inches. For the 3.5mm blade, you want between 1.5 inches and 2 inches. And for the 4mm blade, you want about 1 inch. If you're having trouble, getting the measurement that you want, you just, take the double disc opener off, and there's probably already shims behind one of the two disc blades, and just, move them accordingly until you get the measurement you want. But just remember, oftentimes one side is a left-hand thread bolt and the other one is the right-hand thread bolt, so don't get out the large breaker bar in the pipe and really crank on it and break it off. Just keep that in mind. One of them is probably left-hand thread. So keep that in mind when you're adjusting those. But as you can see in the picture there with the red X, those double disc openers, they look like they're getting worn. And there's also a space between those two. But you can see just to the right with the green check mark, those two double disc openers are touching nicely, and you're going to have a nice seed trench cut in the soil, and to be more effective to close the seed trench. So here we're going to discuss keys for no-till with older John Deere planters. Now, probably an argument between some of the farmers and equipment manufacturers is John Deere, Kinsey, and White planters. Their row unit is very similar. So we'll just kind of say that this discussion here is probably pretty much going to cover all three of those brands. So I'm going to discuss how, when we rebuilt this planter, how we did it initially, and then how we changed after using it for just a little while. So as you can see, number 1, the disc there, the John Deere 7000 initially was not set up for no-till. So this no-till coulter for the fertilizer was added at one point or another. And so it, cut a slice in the soil, and then it dribbled the fertilizer behind the disc. And then number 2 is the no-till coulter. So we've got the no-till coulter on there. Number 3, that was very important. Before I changed to a heavy-duty down pressure spring kit, this planter, those double disc openers maybe went 1/2 inch in the ground, even with the no-till coulters on. So the down pressure spring kit was very, very important to be able to no-till. As you can see on number 4, those are the closing wheels. I had one solid and I had one spot wheel. Number 5 is the drag chains. And then you can see on the right, I took quite a bit of that stuff off after no-tilling for just a little while. The number one, the fertilizer disc, no matter which way you move it for the 2x2 fertilizer, it's gonna be in front of a gauge wheel. And as I was looking behind me when I was planting, I thought because of that wavy coulter, it was stirring the soil a little too much, and I could see the row unit bouncing up a little bit more than I wanted, so I didn't like that. So I took that disc off, and I ran a different fertilizer system. You can see back behind number 4 above those closing wheels is the totally tubular system. So it just dribbles the fertilizer, on top of the lightly tilled soil from those closing wheels, and that has been pretty effective for me. And I think, we do get better planting depth and better emergence because I got rid of that disc in front of the planter. The number 2 for the no-till coulter, I just took that off. As you can see on the older John Deere 7000s, you just pull a pin out and you can change your depth of your no-till coulter blade. But I wasn't happy with any of the adjustments that were there. It seemed like either the no-till coulter was going too deep or it was too shallow. So I just took that off, and I have been no-tilling fine without the no-till coulter. Like I said, number 3, that's the heavy down pressure spring bit. That is very important. That is a must. Either that or, there's pneumatic or there's hydraulic downforce. There's other options, but for the smaller farmer like me, the down pressure spring kit works just fine. And then number 4, the closing wheels. As you can see, I changed those. The solid one was doing okay, but the spiked one, depending on the cover crop I was in, I got quite a bit of wrapping of the residue because of the big spikes on there. So we took those off, and you can see we have different ones back here. I think those are the Etter twisters. I'm not saying those are the best or anything, but they seem to be doing fine for me, and I'm happy with them. So that's what we're going to stick with. And then you can see with number 5, with the drag chains, I took those off. Depending on what cover crop we were in, those were causing problems, just kind of balling up the cover crop behind the planter. So I took those off. Here we have the closing wheel adjustment options for the planter. As you can see, you just grab the T-handle there, and you can pull it back to setting number 1. If you're in a full tillage system, or if the conditions are nice, or if you've been utilizing conservation practices for a while, you might be good in the first setting. But if you're into harder soil, you just pull it back accordingly. Myself, I've never had to go back to the 4th setting. That would probably be some pretty hard soil. Here's a picture of after those changes to the planter of planting corn into a cover crop. This is a mixture of annual rye, cereal rye, and I think there was a little crimson clover in there. And I usually plant my corn about 2 inches deep, and everyone wants to know yield. So that year, the corn yield was 195 bushels per acre. Here's a picture of our Case soy planter. Like I said, there's no node coulters on this planter because of the leading edge double disc opener, and that seems to be working just fine for us. We can plant into pretty much any cover crop we want. Here's a picture of the first time I ever planted soybeans into a cover crop. As many of you know, John Deere has the single disc opener, and it works very well to penetrate hard soil. And I have no closing wheel modifications on the back of this drill. I pretty much just use this drill to plant wheat and cover crops anymore. But other older drills most likely will need a no-till coulter cart unless they have the leading edge double disc opener on. like I said before, I'm part of the Farmer Advocate for Conservation program, and the Farmer Advocate program is just a voice to elevate the farmers um, for their conservation practices that they're using on their farm. And we are currently planning to expand the Farmer Advocate program throughout the state of Ohio, and we are seeking additional funding for that. And if you want to learn more about the program, you can visit the website at farmeradvocateforconservation.com. And I am also a part of the Farmers for Soil Health program, which is a cost sharing program for cover crops and also provides some technical assistance. And if you would like to learn more about that program, you can visit the website at farmersforsoilhealth.com. Here's my contact information if anyone has any questions. But this picture is from a few years ago, and this is one of my favorite ways to plant soybeans into a tall cover crop mix. Very rarely do I have to replant any soybeans when planted into a mix like this. When planting soybeans into a bare soil, I've definitely had to replant more soybeans into bare soil than I have into a cover crop mix like that. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day.